So that would be an area where they first try through. Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting for Monday, February 9, 2015. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Battanti.
Here.
Mr. Brado is asked to be excused. Mr. Capral.
Here.
Mr. Tominello.
Here.
Mr. York is asked to be excused. Mr. Witt here. Mr. Verpest.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Witt. Next on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, including the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of January 26, 2015, and the special board meeting minutes of February 2nd, 2015. Approval of the bills in the amount of $835,349.29, and approval of the December 2014 revenue and expenditure report.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the bills in the amount of $835,349.29.
We've got a motion by Mr. Tominello. Is there support?
Support.
All right. Support by Mr. Capral. Discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. I just received a text saying that there's no sound going through on the broadcast.
He can't hear you because there's no sound.
He's good.
You got it? Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is announcements. Let's see.
Approving the regular.
Oh, I'm sorry. Doggone it, I'm skipping through. I should put the phone away. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the regular agenda. Board members, I did ask that we make one addition to the agenda. The item E2, I would like to add to post, advertise, and interview on the outside for the clerical position, senior account bookkeeper, or department secretary. So I would propose that as item E2. Otherwise, looking for the agenda to be approved with that addition.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make that motion to approve the regular agenda with the aforementioned amendment for E2.
All right.
Support.
All right. We've got a motion with support. Motion by Mr. Tominello with support by Mr. Battanti. Discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Now, announcements. First of all, the 2015 Huron-Clinton Metro Park passes are still for sale at discounted prices to township residents. Passes can be purchased at the Township Administration Building at the Treasurer's Office counter. $24 for residents and $20 for residents for seniors. That's reduced from the normal $30 amount for the annual pass. Michigan State University Extension and Macomb County Health Department will be presenting a workshop on septic systems, well use, and maintenance on Thursday, February 26th from 6:15 to 8:30 p.m. right here at Rosso Hall. The workshop is free, but pre-registration is recommended due to limited seating. For more information or to register, you can call 586-469-6440. The Relay for Life is hosting their Relay Rally Sunday, February 22nd from 1 until 4 p.m. at the Mount Clemens Ice Arena. Registration and the pizza lunch begins at 1 p.m. with a short program beginning at 1:30. After the program, you can get a ticket for free skate rental and open skating admission until 3:50, courtesy of the Mount Clemens Ice Arena. For more information or to register a team as a as a participant or a survivor, you can visit www.relayforlife.org/Harrison Township MI, or you can contact the community manager, Emily Karlichek, 248-663-3421. The Friends of the Harrison Township Public Library and the St. Hubert Knights of Columbus will be hosting a fish fry and bake sale fundraiser at St. Hubert Church on Friday, February 20th from 4 to 7 p.m. The proceeds will be used to assist the Harrison Township Public Library. For information on library events, you can call the library 586-329-1261. And for all these events, you can visit the township's website or call the supervisor's office, 466-1445. Are there any other announcements? I suppose if the treasurer were here, he might say that the tax bills are due and payable without any penalty through February 14th. I believe the 14th falls on a Saturday, so I believe as long as they receive the payment in the drop box by Monday, they consider the payment as having been made on time. So, all right, if there's no other announcements, we'll move to our next item in the agenda. Item B, board members, at the special meeting February 2nd, 2015, the Board of Trustees introduced an ordinance creating a downtown development authority for our township, designating the boundaries of the downtown district and providing for other matters related thereto, establishing a downtown development authority. The next step is to adopt the ordinance. In addition, appointments to the DDA board and Citizens Council have been solicited, and there is an appointment process later on the agenda. So we've heard already the initial introduction, so we'd be looking for a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd make a motion to adopt the ordinance as indicated in the motion.
All right. Is there support?
Support.
All right. We've got a motion by Mr. Batanti with support by Mr. Capral to adopt ordinance number 384, creating a downtown development authority for the Charter Township of Harrison, designating boundaries of the downtown district and providing for other matters related thereto, and to publish a notice of adoption at the Charter Township of Harrison, and the full text may be reviewed in the clerk's office during normal business hours. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll open up the floor for public comment.
William Bardell, 18-year resident. I was wondering now I know at the workshop, we had coffee and donuts and we signed our names and we made the postcards, and we signed our email addresses and I believe phone numbers. Now at the public hearing on December 1st, I think 2/3 into the meeting or 3/4 into the meeting or 4/5 into the public hearing, Adam Witt, you had expressed that the residents that had to leave early to let their dog out, work the midnight shift or whatever, give you their email or their phone numbers or what have you. My question to you, Mr. Witt, is those little pieces of paper, I don't know what type of paper it was, or I'm assuming you got about 15 of them. I know they just kept coming up there and giving you. Did you take those pieces of paper and put those on the same type spreadsheet that we got when we signed in for our workshop? And I believe that was in August for that workshop where we made the posters and had the crayons and everything. And then were those emails and phone numbers given the same consideration that we got as I stay abreast of everything going on through the email process? My question is, have these people that gave you these little pieces of paper, did you gingerly take those pieces of paper and put those on a spreadsheet or a sheet along with my email and everyone else's email who attended the workshop? And or Or, this is my personal comment, or did we treat those residents as second-class citizens? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Sunstock, 31698 San Juan. Two comments. There was a question about the legality of moving forward with this downtown development district. Has that been answered by the attorney, by anybody else? Especially as it relates to the properties along that are included in the downtown development district that you're calling deteriorated, and which properties were those? So I'll be interested to hear that. The second thing is that at the January 20, I believe this was January 26th meeting, I indicated that it appeared that you were trying to rush this thing by putting on February 2nd, and that you were moving forward in some kind of big hurry, and you indicated, you indicated that you were going to send an email to everybody that had asked to be sent emails for the February 2nd meeting. My understanding is you did not at all. So that is why we had the bad turnout on the 2nd, which was apparently blamed on the weather, but you didn't send that email. And so I guess I'm asking why, because one of the concerns I've had, and I raised it before in front of this board, is that both yourself and Mr. Verkast have indicated that the people that lived in the downtown development district were, I believe I said at that time, scum. I was wrong. It was lowlifes. And you indicated that the people that lived there or that were at that meeting were all lowlifes, and it wasn't important what they had to say. Wasn't it important that they be at the February 2nd meeting either? This downtown development district looks like a rush job. We're going to be commenting a little later on the appointment process, but it's a rush job. There's no clear need for it. It's not even potentially legal, and I don't care what your advisor says from, like I said, from the Wade Trim. Wade Trim doesn't make the law. Wade Trim doesn't enforce the law. The fact is that there are no deteriorated pieces of property along inside the development district that you've outlined. And what few there are is no more than any other district in this whole community. So I'm asking you to not confirm this vote tonight, and that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment and move back to board comment. Mr. Witt, I know there were a couple questions about email correspondence.
Yeah, we had a list of about 54 emails. We did send an email in advance of the February 2nd meeting. Anyone can check the logs of what was sent out. We also sent it out in advance of this meeting. So if we got your email and we put in what was written down, we added it to our spreadsheet, those did go out. As far as the allegations that a resident comes up and says that I said something, unless he heard it, he's not telling the truth. So I value people's opinions. That's why I got those email addresses. That's why I sent out the emails to try to make sure everyone stayed in connection with this. So.
Yeah, I think it was your proposal. I think you'd actually spoke up and offered to accept emails. There was a question about the legality of moving forward to this. At this point, I am not aware of any legal flaw in our process or legal challenge or error. I've spoken to Mr. Huth. I've spoken to our advisors, and I believe that the process is moving along properly. We've addressed several times now the issue of deterioration. I'll do the best that I can to answer the question, but in essence, it's the same question that I've answered several times. I'll read section 2 of the ordinance that we're adopting this evening. The Township Board hereby determines that it is necessary for the best interests of the public to create a public body corporate which shall operate to increase property tax valuation where possible in the business district of the township, promote economic growth, halt property value deterioration, and eliminate the causes of that deterioration pursuant to Act 197 of the Public Acts of Michigan, 1975 as amended. Nowhere in this ordinance and nowhere in any statement I've made or any action this board has taken has there been any claim that there's deteriorated properties. Our treasurer did make mention about that, but that is not the ordinance. The ordinance says that the DDA's purpose is to halt property value deterioration, the loss or drop in property values. At our last meeting on February 2nd, there was some discussion saying, well, hasn't all properties in our southeastern Michigan area deteriorated? And the study was referenced, and our advisor from Wade Trim that assisted with us with the study pointed out that they looked at this district and the property values of this district compared to the township as a whole, and over a 5-year period, the deterioration of property values within this district was slightly greater than the surrounding district of the community. So the answer to the question, what properties are deteriorated, this board has never made that claim. Our advisors have never made that claim. I know that. I never have. But the study speaks for itself where it refers specifically to property value deterioration. There was a comment about trying to rush and in a big hurry. I don't know that I would agree with that, but certainly there is a timeline, and the timeline is based on the fact that we have a date. I've mentioned the 4th Monday in May. That's when the new property valuation, basically the new assessment, comes out, and I believe they say it's certified on that date. So if this process can be completed before then the numbers that we've reflected in the study would be, in essence, the numbers that we are operating under or hoping to see. Come the 4th Monday in May, the numbers may be different. We're basing the study on what we've seen so far. I don't know if there's any other board comment. If not, there's a motion by Mr. Batanti with support by Mr. Caprell to adopt ordinance number 384, creating a downtown development authority for the Charter Township of Harrison, designating boundaries of the downtown district and providing for other matters related thereto, and to publish a notice of adoption at the Charter Township of Harrison, where the full text may be reviewed in the clerk's office during normal business hours. Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes. Mr. Batanti?
Yes.
Mr. Caprell?
Yes.
Mr. Brado is excused. Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. York is excused. Mr. Witt, yes. Mr. Verkest?
Yes. Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is item C2, 9 appointments to the Downtown Area Citizens Council. Board members, as discussed in the earlier agenda item, there is a need for this board to appoint one council and one board. The Downtown Development Authority Board must be a minimum of 9 members, comprised first of the supervisor, or in the event of a city or village, the president, mayor, whatever it might be, the chief executive officer of the municipality, along with a minimum of 8 other members. And that body is ultimately the decision-making body that steers the Downtown Development Authority within the rights granted under this ordinance and the law. During the formation of this downtown development plan and any tax increment financing plan, the law requires that we also establish a citizens council. This council must be comprised of residents of the district. It is an advisory council. The law doesn't grant any inherent authority to approve or deny, but rather to oversee, to counsel both the Downtown Development Authority as well as this board on decisions that might be made in the formation of this development plan and any tax increment financing plan. I discussed earlier that this process if we run it through its full course, should hopefully be complete prior to the end of May. So the service on this Citizens Council is in essence, you know, through the months of February, March, April, and perhaps into May. There is before you a list of 9 applications. There are also copies in the back. The difficult part about this process is we're required to redact information on the copies made available to the public, and that includes addresses and phone numbers, email addresses. The problem is that this board, or this Citizens Council, is not only required to be comprised of people who live in the district, the proposed district, but second of all, they need to be indicative or representative, I believe the state law says, of the district. So, while I won't read any addresses, I'll make reference at least to the locations. The first applicant, in no particular order in your packet, is Mr. Mark Wisniewski. He's applied for the Citizens Council. He lives on Crocker Boulevard between Jefferson and Metro Parkway. The next application you have is Mr. Eric Person. His address is Carrington Place. He lives in the Harrison Village community, also in the district. The next application is also from a resident of Mr. Steve Nobles, who is a resident of the Harrison Village condominium complex. The next application in your packet is from a Mr. Lance Martell. His address is on Jefferson, specifically in the Blue Sky mobile home community. The next application is from a Lisa Graves, who also lives in the Blue Sky mobile home community. The next application is from a Carrie Pretty, who lives in the Harrison Village condo community. The next application is a Scott Cortese, who lives on Jefferson, in that area between Crocker, and the S-curves by the sandbar. The next application is for a Lori Almacy. She lives on Crocker between the Jefferson and Metro Parkway corridor. And then finally, a Joseph Phillips, who lives on Jefferson, again in the area between the sandbar and Crocker Boulevard. All 9 of these people have expressed an interest or willingness to serve on the council. They all, because as property owners, are curious about the process and want to see, you know, I suppose, what the process involves, and, you know, are willing to serve. The state act, the Downtown Development Authority Act 197 of 1975, requires that we establish this Citizens Council. It requires that we have a minimum of 9 members appointed to this Citizens Council. It does not indicate a maximum. So we do have 9 members who have filled out an application and have expressed an interest to serve. But in the event that there would be additional members who wish to serve, we can still accept applications. The act only says that we have to establish this council, and it has to be a minimum of 9 members. In addition, any meetings that they're likely to be involved in or attend would be public and open meetings. So even if a citizen or resident of that district or any citizen at large wish to observe their meetings, they will be posted and are, you know, open meetings as such. So I do have 9 applicants, and I'm recommending that we appoint these 9 individuals to the Citizens Council for our Downtown Development Authority.
Mr. Supervisor, are you looking for individual motions or one motion for all 9?
We need to mention the 9 names.
Yes, you do need to mention the names.
Can we have one motion to name all 9?
Yes.
All right. Were you gonna make that motion, Mr.
Yeah,
Temmell?
I'll make a motion to appoint the following individuals to the, it's called the Citizens Council, the Downtown Development Area Citizens Council. Is there any expiration date on these?
I asked the same question.
Yeah, it really, once, they advise during the formation of the plan, once the formation of the plan is complete and approved and adopted, then they're discharged. There is no further responsibility for the citizens.
The
town-
tax increment plan, it's not specific to the DDA, it's specific to the formation of the tax increment.
It's actually
plan.
both, the development plan and the tax increment finance plan.
Okay, so these appointments would be tied to those two plans?
Yep.
Be Mark Wisniewski, Eric Pearson, Steve Nobles, Lance Martell, Lisa Graves, Carrie Pretty, Scott Cortese, excuse me, Lori Alsmez,
Almacy?
Almacy, thank you for that pronunciation correction. And Joseph Phillips.
Mhm.
I believe that's 9.
Yep. All right. Is there a second?
Support.
All right. We've got a motion by Mr. Tominello, a support by Mr. Witt to appoint the 9 individuals to the Citizens Council for the Downtown Development Authority. Discussion, board members?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, the notion of, we have a minimum of 9,
Mhm.
which is good. And I'm very supportive of acknowledging the fact that we would be willing to entertain other applicants.
Mhm.
And I'd like to do so in a way that if we act upon that in a day or a month, that it's acknowledged. So is that something that we should add to our motion or somehow formally recognize? So that it's acknowledged and understood that we will do that.
Well, that's a good question. I believe what the law requires is that we establish a council, the Citizens Council, and the law says that a minimum is 9. And I think what's responsible for us to do so that we satisfy that is to literally do that today. We've said publicly that we'll accept additional applications. I don't know if making the motion saying that we'll accept additional applications or consider future appointments is necessary.
Okay.
I think if we take action, we're good. I don't know, Mr. Huth, if you have an opinion?
There's not a wrong answer. You now announced other people can apply. Mr. Battani would like to add a couple more names. So you have stated that's your policy. You could confirm it by motion or just leave it lay because you have acknowledged that's the policy.
That could be noted in the meeting minutes, that it was
And
mentioned.
it will be, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, thank you for that. I guess if we note it in the meeting minutes, then I'm satisfied that we've publicly acknowledged that we're satisfying the minimum and are willing to accept, or willing to consider other applicants.
And we'll still keep the same information on the website, encouraging folks to apply.
Okay,
So,
good.
all right, any other board comment?
And just in case anyone was curious, we also sent out an email to the people whose email addresses we had soliciting their applications to serve on both the Citizens Council and the DDA should they be interested.
All right. All right, we'll open up the floor for public comment.
Jim Sunstock, 31698 San Juan. You indicated that you're not required to give the address and telephone number or township residence address and so on. I'd like to know what part of the Open Meetings Act or the Freedom of Information Act that refers to. Everybody else has to have their address published. You have to have your address published. I'd like to know why you're redacting anything like this. If there is a policy or a law that says that, I'd like to hear which law it was. I have a couple questions, since I can't tell where these people actually live, other than your general description. I have a couple questions, at least on at least a couple of them, whether or not they live in the district. And I'll leave that open right now because I believe you guys are wrong in not publishing the addresses and phone numbers. You wouldn't have to publish the emails, but addresses and phone numbers is a public record. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a couple real quick comments. William Burrell. I think you should publish the addresses and their phone numbers in good faith. And I think you should also entertain the idea of getting up to 10 more people on this board. And the reason I think you need to put a number on it and, you know, just say 10 more is for the fact that if somebody comes on this board, I think it would be fair to put a number on it and say 11 more. If there's 9, let's say 11 more with their addresses and phone numbers. So these people can be ambassadors to this project and so we can give them a call. And as we're all supposed to be passionate about this community, and we can all be abreast of what's going on. Because, I mean, the only one that answers the phone up here is Adam. I can get a hold of Adam anytime I want. I give him a call, he pipes me right through. No one else answers their phone, so unless I want to talk to Adam, nobody else calls me back. So, but I think we should have the addresses and the phone numbers. And I want to thank you, Adam, for knowing who Alexander Graham Bell is. I appreciate that. But I think we should make it a number of about 20. Make it a number of about 20 and have the addresses and phone numbers so we can all talk, have a cup of coffee and talk about it. If we all like this community that we say we do, then let's have the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment and move back to board comment. Mr. Witt, there was the first question that was asked, and I don't know if Mr. Huth can
I'm looking
advise.
up something, well, I'm kind of, although it looks like I'm playing around on my phone, I'm actually looking up a statute. But I bet Mr. Verkest knows it right off the top of his head.
Well, I don't.
Yeah, let me ask you this.
I only do what the clerk says.
Here it is. Just if you give me 1 second, is there another question you could answer?
I think really the one question was whether or not the addresses, whether it was appropriate to publish the addresses. I know that typically in the public board packets we redact addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses.
The statute that authorizes is you have discretion when you're weighing somebody's privacy versus the public's right to know. On this one, if the board decided of the 3 pieces of information, email, address, and phone, that it might consider giving the address out because they are supposed to be residents of the district, I think that would be a reasonable interpretation of what information the public's allowed to know. So you may want to consider allowing that out.
Okay.
And I think sometimes we balance that with, until they're appointed, they're really not serving in that function. And you know, even when we have people that serve on like planning commission and zoning board and that kind of stuff, there's the same requirements for a lot of those boards that they're residents of the township, but we choose to redact it for somebody's privacy, you know, until the time they are appointed, and we would make that information available at that time.
That solves it then. That's appropriate.
All right. So in the event that the board chooses to move forward with this, what would be an appropriate way to?
They'll be available in the clerk's office.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. The short answer to the question, I mean, literally, when I received more applications than the 9 that we have here, some of those folks were nearby, but not literally in the district, meaning that they may be on a side street that connects to this district, but they're not literally in the named properties. One of the residents that we're considering for appointment works in the one of the nearby housing developments. I'd asked if they might extend that invitation to the excuse me, to the residents of that housing development. So in conversation with these applicants, I did confirm that they do live in the district, and I encouraged them to reach out to their neighbors to encourage more applicants. But we do have 9 to consider here, and assuming that we approve them, I think it would be wise for us to make the addresses available. So, any other discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion by Mr. Tominello with support by Mr. Witt to appoint the 9 aforementioned residents to the Citizens Council to serve for the duration and up to the formation of the development plan and the tax increment financing plan. We don't need a roll call, no. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda was appointments to the Downtown Development Authority. Board members, as of this afternoon, I'd received 2 confirmed and an additional 3rd potential applicant, someone who'd applied saying that they'd be willing to serve on either board. The caliber of the applicants so far has been good. Actually, 2 of the applicants are here currently. Mr. Swadesh, John Swadesh, is retired from the SMART bus system. He also served as the chair of our Economic Development Corporation, so he has a history of serving the township. Amanda Oparka is here, and she is working on her master's degree in planning. She represents the Clinton River Watershed Council, so she's already a quasi-municipal partner to the township. It was brought to my attention that the appointment to the Downtown Development Authority is certainly a very important appointment. Going to have a lot of influence on the formation of this plan. And unlike, say, our next appointment we have to the Planning Commission, we're looking at appointing 8 members all at one time. And it was recommended that we, as opposed to appointing these individuals this evening, we might have a special designated time where we look at all of the applicants and give them a chance to address the board, give them proper notice, so that the board might give complete consideration to all the applicants before we make those appointments. So unless there's an objection from the board, I would encourage us not to make those appointments to the DDA this evening.
It would be appropriate, Mr. Supervisor, to table that item.
Okay.
And if that is appropriate, I will make that motion.
All right. A motion by Mr. Tominello.
Support.
With support by Mr. Battanti to table the appointments to the Downtown Development Authority to a future meeting where we'll allow each applicant to address the board. Discussion, board members?
Just if anybody knows of anybody that's interested, I might not have their email addresses, to let them know. Not everyone has a computer, so if you know somebody that might be interested, let them know.
The requirements for the Downtown Development Authority, the state act requires that a minimum of 1 individual live in the district. There is a requirement that the body is a minimum of 9 members. The state act requires that 1 of them is the supervisor, and then 8 members. 1 needs to be a resident or live in the district. A majority must have an interest in the district. And by an interest, it could be a business interest, it could be a residential interest. So, for example, if you live in the area and you own property in the area, you'd have an interest. If it happens to be a business interest, the owner of the business can designate a representative. So, for example, if, for example, an individual owned a marina in the district and they wanted to send their general manager to be the member, that general manager is in essence a representative of the individual that owns an interest in the district. But it goes to reason then that if there's a total of 9 members, a majority of them or 5 of them have to have an interest. That would suggest that at least 3 of them do not have to have an interest. So it doesn't preclude folks from serving if they don't live in the district. But obviously, to the extent that we can, the state law suggests that we want as many people with an interest in the district to serve on the board. Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, we have a motion by Mr. Tominella with support by Mr. Battanti to table the appointments to the Downtown Development Authority to a future meeting where we can interview each individual, allow them a chance to address the board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Next on our agenda is item C3. Board members, Mr. William Folk has resigned from the Planning Commission. We have received an application from Mr. James Garvin to serve on the Planning Commission. Mr. Garvin is a longtime resident of the township as well as a business owner. I would recommend the appointment of Mr. James Garvin to the remainder of the vacant term to expire December 20th, 2015. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. James Garvin to the remainder of the vacant term to expire 12/20/15.
I guess I should have said Planning Commission, but, yeah.
And I'll support it if you would include to accept the resignation of Mr. Bill Folk from the Planning Commission as well.
Okay, all right. So we've got a motion by Mr. Capra with support by Mr. Witt to appoint Mr. James Garvin to the Planning Commission to the remainder of the vacant term to expire 12/20/15 and to accept the resignation of Mr. William Folk from the Planning Commission. Any discussion, board members? Hearing none, we'll open the floor for public comment.
Yeah, I'd just like a little more information. William Bardell, 18-year resident. Just like a little more information on Mr. James Garvin, what specialties he has, what type of business does he own, and I'd like to know a little bit about him. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Can we do that?
Jim Senstock, 31698 San Juan. I raised the same objection to having his address redacted out. So that if you in fact do appoint him tonight, that you would give us his address, where he lives. On the issue of what specific expertise, is he filling any specific expertise for the Planning Commission, such as being a builder or whatever, or is he just a business owner? Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment and move back to board comment. I'll do my best to, I've known Mr. Garvin, well, I don't want to sound bad, but since I was a little kid. He's a graduate of L'Anse Creuse High School. He currently owns a business, a Frosty Queen, an ice cream, seasonal ice cream place, I think north of us, maybe half hour or so. Yeah. Prior to that, his father, I believe, was the owner of Metro Party Shop for many years, and then he then continued to operate the business. So he's lived in the community a long time, raised his family here. So he's not only a current business owner, but also a former business owner within Harrison Township. He's listed that he is a block captain in his subdivision, the Point Rosa subdivision. And he previously served as the president of Boat Town, so certainly has had some civic service before. But for anyone, and I know there are a lot of residents who know Jim, but for anyone that knows Jim, they know that he's a pretty social fella, knows a lot of people. He's got good business sense, certainly ran a successful business, and he is still currently involved in the community. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments. Hearing none, we've got a motion by Mr. Caprow, support by Mr. Witt, to appoint Mr. James Garvin to the Planning Commission for the remainder of the vacant term to expire 12/2015, and to accept the resignation of Mr. William Folk. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda is item D, approval of the bid specifications for the single waste hauler. Board members, we did form a committee, I believe Mr. York, Mr. Batanti, and myself, subcommittee to review the bid specifications for the single waste hauler. We met, well, I think just the one time with Mr. Huth. Went through the bid packet and removed some of the things that were no longer pertinent, added additional things that we thought were valuable, updated some of the information, and before you is that bid spec, the bid package that we have right now. I don't know if there's any highlights that we need to go over of some of the things that we've changed, or?
I think it might be appropriate to add the changes that we discussed at the department head meeting.
Yep.
Just because some of the board members may not be familiar with that. There are some good catches there. Should I do that now, Mr.?
Yeah, that'd be perfect, thank you.
On page 12, there's a discussion about the type of containers that are provided for the cleanup. And what has happened is logs during the township cleanup and certain debris is not being picked up by the hauler. So we're asking to bring in another 30 yard container to get that extra debris and have whoever wins this contract figure out what to do with it.
Well, actually, I'd received, based on that conversation, just this morning, right before lunch, I'd received additional correspondence from Mr. Brado. He's our representative and liaison to the Environmental Committee. And primarily, this verbiage refers to the service that's provided. So the notes that I have, that in addition to what this calls for, the 3 30-yard roll-off dumpsters, historically, for the last couple of years, we've had 2 additional 30-yard dumpsters, one in the spring and one in the fall. So really what we'd be saying is ultimately up to 5 dumpsters for cleanups. And then it says, and lastly, an option for 1 additional 30-yard dumpster, which could be used for either debris or logs as needed throughout the year, because the American ABYA, Boating and Yacht Association, I guess, I know it's the
Anchor Bay.
Anchor Bay, there you go. There you go, thank you. They're doing a Clinton River cleanup, and so the potential exists that there could be a 6th dumpster. And then one other concern was that 30-yard dumpsters, many of the haulers will limit the tonnage to 4 tons in a 30-yard dumpster, and after the 4 tons, they may charge an overage fee. And historically, our current waste hauler, Tringali, has donated or covered that additional cost. So he hasn't capped that weight at 4 tons. So I guess really what we're saying is we've got currently in there 3, an additional 2, possibly up to a 6th, and some acknowledgement that the weight for the dumpsters, there'll be no overage charges for the weight.
Okay, got it?
Now, I don't know if there's a way that we word that in such a way that the waste hauler receives some sort of community credit or donation, or I mean, this is a charitable cause when all is said and done. I don't know if there's a way that we word it. Ultimately, we want 6 dumpsters and we want to be able to fill them up.
Well, I mean, internally, if they decide to book it that way, that's their business. So
Yeah.
We'll let them
Yep.
do it.
I suppose if the contract acknowledges that it's, a lakeshore cleanup, volunteer, something to that, I think that's good. We've got that noted.
On that same page, we're striking the last paragraph of the page because it is redundant and wrong.
Right.
I just had one other change, and that was on page 18. We just want to clarify to the contractor that we're only paying it to the extent we've been paid by our residents. That's been the practice, that's what the intention is, and then I just added other language here to make it clearer, and it is along the lines of,
First, where can you show us where that's at? Under
I
payment to the
apologize.
contractor?
Yeah, payment to the contractor, page 18. So second to last sentence will end with, shall be a number of units serviced times the rate agreed upon in the contract for each unit, and, new language, and contingent on collecting the fees. And I may fool around with that a little more, but the point is, if we don't get the money from the resident, we can't pay the contractor, and they shouldn't expect that. They'll get it later when it's put on their tax bill, but not in this initial holding period.
Right. And we've discussed that at length. We've really developed what works to be basically a 90-day holding period for the funds as we receive them. So, you know, it's as in terms of a performance bond, if a waste hauler were to say, well, we're going to stop performing the work, we've got 3 months of fees that we collect. If they've violated the contract, it's a pretty strong amount of leverage, I think, to say we actually hold the money. So,
Right, those were the additions.
we did include the option to the providers are allowed, or they may include a recycle bonus program proposal if they choose to. We're not requiring it, but if they choose to do so. And I think we also had allowed specific verbiage for the option of a woody debris collection. Something other than wrapping the sticks, if they have an alternate proposal for the collection of woody debris, logs or, you know, tree trimmings, yeah, brush, that sort of thing. We did have some recommendations saying that we believe that some residents said they would like larger recycle containers. Currently, as well as with a new contract, people can use more than one recycle bin. They can use larger recycle bins. The service that we receive doesn't require that we use only the small handheld bins. So if folks wish to have larger recycle bins, there's nothing preventing them from using those now. There were some proposals to say to include the cost of trash bins or new recycle bins. What we found through our research is that when we include that in the cost of the contract, the waste haulers tend to find that communities that give them away for free move an awful lot of them, because people become rather accustomed to the fact that I can take the, not every resident would do this, mind you, but statistically throughout a community, residents may make a decision to say, well, I need a dumpster at my cottage or a place up north, hunting camp, so I'll just take one of these and just tell them it got lost. And so in the end, whether we like it or not, when we say you get a free dumpster, it's not free, we're paying for it, but if you take care of the can to the best you can, then you only pay for your can. But if you make it free, then the potential for abuse exists. So after discussion, we decided not to include free additional dumpsters in there. Yep, the financial hardship, we had a $3,000 limit. Now we're asking that they provide up to $4,000 of financial hardship relief to our financial hardship committee, which reviews applications on an annual basis. And we did, when we, and it's important to note publicly that when the original bidding occurred, we'd asked, so we'll say 5 years ago when we'd asked for contractors to bid, we'd ask them to bid the cost of doing the collection of the fees, or bid assuming that the township will do the collection. And as you might imagine, we saved a substantial amount on the collection fees, for, you know, the waste hauler fees, when we agreed to manage the collection ourselves. Over the last 5 years, we found that the management of that collection didn't come without some additional cost and labor to the township. So we have included in here a cost where the waste hauler will reimburse the township for some of the fees related to the collection of the fees. So, to the extent that I can remember, those were the significant issues or changes. By and large, the bid spec is primarily the same as what it was before. The services will be, by and large, the same: white goods, furniture, so forth. I don't know if there are any discussions.
I just had one more, and maybe it's okay or maybe it's not, but
What
under
page?
general conditions, page 2,
Okay.
it says, bids must be submitted on or before closing time. I think that should be 2 PM as it was stated on the previous page.
Yeah, that's a good catch, thank you.
We've also indicated that we would have a pre-bid meeting. We didn't include that in here. Once we adopt this and prepare the bid packages, we'll set a date for that, but we didn't believe it needed to be set by board action.
Mr. Supervisor, one other question. On page 5, under recycling, I think we did, and I think that's what this is saying, we had talked about giving the residents an opportunity to purchase a larger recycle bin should they desire. And I think that's what this is saying, right? In page 5, about the 4th paragraph down, the contractor may provide as an option a cost to supply larger recycle bins to a resident. I mean,
Correct.
is
Might
that-
be, might be better to say, shall provide a cost, so that we, you know, what I mean, we want them to give us a
Right.
cost for that.
So that was in response to some of the residents that had asked for a larger bin, and we had agreed that, you know, that's reasonable, but it would have to be done at the cost of the bin to the resident, not
Right, not everyone's
not
needs are the
everyone,
same,
right,
so.
right. So that's what that is saying, correct?
Right, and we also, and we also did ask that in the future, any recycle bins that are provided by the hauler have lids on them, because there are times when folks will put out the, you know, recyclable waste, especially if it's paper or light cardboard, you know, and the plastic will blow out, or the cardboard will blow out of the container, and just leads to, you know, yard waste.
I think this is something to discuss at a later time, but as I listen to you describe the fact that we're not limited to the recycle bins we have, there are probably a lot of people that don't know that.
Right.
And I didn't know that. So at some point, you know, maybe with the adoption of the new contract, we need to do something to get out there some of these notions so that people would be more aware.
And not to get picky, but instead of saying larger recycle bins, maybe say additional capacity. Could be 2 bins, could be a larger bin, could be whatever they choose.
Okay, that's good. Except I gotta make sure I'm looking at what, you're in the 4th paragraph still?
Yep,
Oh, yeah, larger capacity. Did you say larger capacity?
or additional capacity,
Additional capacity,
meant to be more than one, or,
Right, so they may come back with options as to how they might do
yeah.
that.
Good, good, good.
And Mr. Huth, I'm sure you have more experience with this, and Mr. Witt as well. Sometimes during that pre-bid meeting, contractors will come forward with questions or things that they've seen in there. So I mean, you know, to the extent that we can, we try to prepare this the best we can, but
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah, and what's happened then is, those meetings, they'll catch something that seems to make sense for us, but not to them, and they're in the business, so we'll mark it up, tell everybody there, and then they'll come back to the board and just say, hey, we met with these guys, we need to make an amendment on this, cause it's not making sense to them, and so we'll do it that way.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion?
So recycle bins will be provided, but trash containers will not?
No.
because if you look at under recycling, it says the plastic bins will be provided by the contractor for residential pickup. Third,
Yep,
second cell.
yep, third line.
So that's why I'm a little confused about what we're talking
And
about.
that was true when we initially began, but I don't know if we need to include that any further.
You know, if most people have them, what you're doing is you're telling people they can get another one.
You know what, that's a good point. I think we should strike that.
Yep, I agree.
That's a good catch, thank you.
Further discussion, board? Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we, the proper wording, excuse me, let me get to it.
Yeah, I don't think there was a cover sheet for it.
It's basically just to approve bid specifications and direct the supervisor solicitor, to go out and actually do the bidding process
As discussed tonight, because we
Yeah.
got some changes. Yep.
with the changes, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bid specifications and go out to obtain bids as discussed this evening.
All right. Got a motion by Mr. Batanti. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Caprell. We've had a fair amount of discussion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll open up the floor for public comment.
My name is Justin Mouton. I live in Blue Sky Trailer Park. About this recycling, the trailer park doesn't have any recycling. And I don't know if you guys know that, or if it's a different waste management system that they have that doesn't, you know, pertain to what you guys do with the rest of the county. But I think it would be nice if the trailer park did have recycling, because, you know, there's a lot of people that like to lighten the footsteps on the environment. Also, as far as the bid goes, I have an idea for you. I think it'd be right to make your first bin free, but not any bin after that. It's totally up to you guys. And also, if you wanted to save a little money, people have a lot of old garbage cans, you know, that they might not be using. Maybe you guys can just sell the stickers. And you don't have to buy the whole bin. That way, if they want to use a separate container, they can just throw a sticker on it, or one on each side, or whatever. And that way, you don't have to buy the actual plastic bin. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Servio, 37985 Town Hall. Over the last few years, quite a few people have come complaining to me about, not our current necessarily trash hauler, but in the past, damaging the containers that they insist you pay for. And depending on who it was, I believe Tringali sold them for $75. I think Waste Management was like $95. They abuse them, throw them in a ditch, break the lid off, and then expect you to pay for it again. So I think some language should be in there that they need to exercise due care and caution with the equipment, because it's not theirs. Second thing is, I believe OSHA requires that they can only lift so many pounds. I believe it might be 50 pounds. So if you have a larger container, I believe Mr. Rizzo back 3 years ago or 2 years ago proposed that he would supply a larger wheeled recyclable container, 65 gallon if I remember correctly. That might weigh more than 50 pounds, and I assume that he was gonna have some type of lift on the truck. So you can't just specify that they can use any container. If it's too large, they can't lift it. So you might wanna clean that stuff up a little bit, and I'm sure that your people that are gonna bid on it are gonna have say about it too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Senstack, 31698 San Juan. I'm just going through this thing right now, and I may have missed it. Is there some place that deals with storm damage. For instance, large limbs or, you know, when we get a large wind, it blows down several trees or limbs. Usually they end up stacked up out by the street, and then they don't get picked up for weeks. And so I may have missed it in here. Is that part of this bid process? Are we going to ask them to submit a part for the bid? The only other thing that I just going through, and again, it may be addressed in here. I know you addressed the grass juice and so on that drips out of some of the trucks when they're coming around, and you basically have provisions for them to clean it up and so on. But, and again, this is not our current contractor, but in the past, some of the garbage trucks that were circulating the township were what would be referred to as leakers. And when I say leakers, they're not leaking juice, they're leaking hydraulic fluid, oil, brake fluid, all kinds of things. That kind of stuff, brake fluid, hydraulic fluid, that kind of stuff raises havoc with a street, especially if you have asphalt streets. So I think there needs to be some kind of provision in there that requires that the trucks be maintained and don't leak. And if there is any leak, that they be responsible for any damage it causes to the street. Other than that, pretty good job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment and move back to board comment. So the first comment was regarding recycling in the mobile home park. With multi-family communities, whether it be a trailer park, a condominium, some of those communities have curbside pickup. Some choose to have a centralized dumpster. That's really a business relationship between the owner and manager, operator of the park, and the waste hauler that provides that service. It is certainly feasible that a community, whether it be a condominium, apartment complex, mobile home community, could set up a recycling bin and accept that and have a waste hauler say, I'd like you to pick up both solid waste as well as recyclables. But the township, I don't believe, can dictate that they must be involved in a recycling program. So some condos, apartments have dumpsters available to the residents, and the residents put their own trash to the dumpster. Some, I know, have curbside service. It's really a decision because it's ultimately the cost is borne by the homeowners or the residents. Page 14 of the bid spec is waste. At the top of page 14, subsection H, waste container care and replacement. We do have information indicating that the contractor shall exercise all reasonable care and diligence. The township will cooperate in requiring residents to provide and maintain suitable containers, and the contractor must exercise due care in preventing damage thereto, and shall replace cans in an erect position with the lids replaced thereon or adjacent thereto.
You know, just since you read that one, I don't know, and maybe it's something we can ask the contractors, but the adjacent thereto, my can fills with 6 inches of water if it rains, and then it's trash water, because they don't close the lid, and I get it, they use a machine, it flips it up, it goes back down. I don't know if it's practical for them to close it, you know, even if you just say like on an inclement weather day or something like that, but I don't know what to do with 6 inches of trash can water that my neighbors would find appealing, so.
You need a garden, vegetable garden.
It's not the compost can, I'll pour that in the garden, but. Plus with a baby on the way, I don't want baby diaper water.
No, probably don't want that.
No.
Not good in the old romaine lettuce.
No.
There is also a comment about, maintenance of vehicles, the issue is already covered, on page 16, and a continuation on the following page, about the condition of the vehicles, dumpsters. So I know that there is language addressing that. The larger recycling container, again, the problem that we struggled with is to say that the provider, that the waste hauler would provide that. I know that there'd be residents who would say, well, I don't want a 65-gallon recycling container. You know, we have 7 people in our home currently, so we generate a lot of recycling. But it could be a matter of a handful of years from now, and maybe we only have 2 or 3 people in our home, and the little red bin is sufficient. Again, what we got to was, we either say that the carrier or the hauler provides all these things, or, as Mr. Battanti alluded to, we just make sure that our residents are educated, and if they say, we'd like a larger recycling container, or more than one, they're empowered to go out and get one. I know when I have too much recycling, I'll just grab a spare cardboard box, put the things in there, the guy throws the whole box and everything in the back. So there's a lot of different ways that people choose to do that. Storm damage, generating limbs and woody debris. We did include
Page 6.
I'm sorry, thank you. Page 6?
Yep.
So we indicated the second paragraph from the bottom. The third paragraph from the bottom explains bundled brush, how it would be done, not exceeding 5 feet in length, and not more than 6 inches in diameter. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the contractor may submit as an option a price to pick up and dispose of brush and limbs larger than that described in the previous paragraph. And then we continue on with information about pickup and recycling of Christmas trees. So we do have some of that information as well. And I think that was all the comments. I don't know if there's any other board comment.
I was just, one of Justin's suggestions I thought was pretty good too, is that if you have an old garbage can we get it so that you can use the old garbage cans for your recycling? Because, and just tag it as recycling as opposed to just, you know, so potentially that's a way to.
Yeah, we could if it was, we could have
Maybe that's
bumper
a-
stickers printed that said recycling or.
That's probably a discussion with the awarded waste hauler at that time.
Yeah, and I mean, there, to a certain extent, you know, the idea would be, is it reasonable to ask the waste hauler to provide, you know, bumper stickers, you know, the equivalent of such that says, you know, household waste, yard waste, recycling, and if someone wants to tag their own individual container, we make decals available.
That's what our current provider does for yard waste containers.
For the yard waste. And I'm just saying, we could include in there that they provide decals. I don't know if there's a great enough need for that, or we make them available to the residents. They can come in and.
You know, I think maybe we should just add it now. It's easier to
Yeah.
put it in now than negotiate it later.
I think so. I think so.
It's also true that you don't necessarily have to have one of those big containers.
Absolutely,
I mean,
correct.
So
Right.
you don't have,
Yeah,
if
some-
you had your own container, right, you could use that.
That's correct.
Right,
Or you can use plastic bags.
Or you can use plastic.
right. So it includes something where they'll provide vinyl, pressure-sensitive adhesive decals with, you know,
Jerry, you serious?
Wow.
PSA. Come on, man. Really? Don't you
I
know?
didn't get all that down.
Well, vinyl decals are probably going to be pretty
Weather
good, but
resistant vinyl decals.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. Pressure-sensitive adhesive. Didn't everybody ever heard of that?
No.
Man, oh man.
I
Jeez.
just call them stickers.
Stickers.
Yeah, Jim, back me up. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion by Mr. Battanti with support by Mr. Caprell to, I don't remember what it was.
Approve the specifications with the changes discussed tonight and to go out for bid.
All right, good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Really, that whole process is obviously going to lead to those bids coming back and undoubtedly fun, lengthy discussions about which bid is the best. But that's in the future. Next on our agenda, item E, refer to it as now E1, regarding a contract with Ultimate Lawn Service. Board members, we've received a contract extension proposal from John Schecker of Ultimate Lawn Service to renew our lawn service for one additional year. The proposal does not include any rate increases. In fact, this would be the 5th year with this contract without a rate increase if we were to approve it. The contract extension proposal and the previous contract with Ultimate Lawn Service is attached for reference. Note that the section in the contract which refers to noxious weeds is no longer in effect. The original contract did have them listed as our noxious weed cutter. Based on cost savings to the township, I would recommend that the board approve the execution of the one-year contract extension with Ultimate Lawn Service for lawn care only and no noxious weed responsibilities to expire April 1st, 2016.
Motion to approve the execution of a one-year contract extension with Ultimate Lawn Service for lawn care only, no noxious weeds responsibilities, expiring April 1, 2016.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Tominello. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Camperl. Discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Next on the agenda was item E2. It was an addition to post, advertise, and interview for the clerical position. We did have one internal applicant for the soon-to-be vacated position at the fire department. In the event that that person does take that move, there'll be another opening which we have to post. In the event that they choose not to exercise that, since there was only one applicant, then we would have to go outside. But somewhere in this process, we'll be interviewing on the outside. And ultimately, we're looking for the permission from this board to allow us to begin that interview process to at least narrow down to a handful of potential candidates. We did go through this process, I guess it was in last summer or late summer. So we do have a couple of individuals that interviewed well. We don't know if they're still in the job seeking business or in a position to still be looking for work. And we may have new applicants, but we'd at least like to begin the process to narrow it down and conduct some interviews. Whatever we do would result in bringing a recommendation back to the board.
So this motion is just to approve for the advertising of the position, is that correct?
To post, advertise, and interview. Yep.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to post, advertise, and interview for the future vacant clerical position.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Witt. Is there discussion? I'm sorry, is there a second?
I'll support it.
I'm sorry. All right, sorry about that. We got a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Tominello. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
I had hoped that we would see a clearer view into the fire department budget prior to proceeding with the hiring process. We've had an arbitration which has had an impact on the department budget. We haven't been able to see that yet. And while I'm not suggesting, Mr. Supervisor, that we do not fill the position, I am suggesting that we take the process in stages and first get a view into the implication to the budget. As we all know, the fire department budget is the largest single outside of the water and sewer, and that's my point. And I'm not suggesting that we eliminate the position. But I would also say that in the event that we had to go a period of time without someone in that position, and this is maybe stretching it a bit, but if somebody went on medical leave, we'd have to figure something out.
Mhm.
So all I'm asking is that we wait to see the revised budget figures, including the results of the arbitration, before we proceed. I'm saying that now because I want to make my position clear so that, we go down a path of hiring and were I to say to would agree with the posting, and then come back and express his opinion. I'm just saying it now.
Understood. And just a point of clarification, if the board chooses to authorize my office to go out and begin this process, we've got to literally advertise for some period of time, accept applications, then we have to arrange for interviews. The next agenda for our next board meeting, which would be the 23rd, we'll have to set that next Monday, which is the 16th. I do not anticipate that by the 16th I could accept applications, review the applications, conduct interviews, and have a recommendation. So that means then that it wouldn't be until sometime in March that I could even, best case, the first meeting in March or a month from now, be able to provide this board with even a recommendation to hire. I fully expect to be able to also provide at that time the information that you're just, making reference to in terms of the fire budget. But if I wait until we look at the fire budget to begin the application process, I'll be into April before we ever have a recommendation for hire, and the person's expected to vacate that position before that time. So that I'm beginning that process, but the ultimate decision whether or not to make a hire is going to come back before this board, at some point in the future. And based on previous timelines, it's not likely to be in 2 weeks. I don't think it's possible to have it before the board in 2 weeks. So if we do good, we could have it back before this board in a month, just based on that timeline. So the reason why, I guess, I might be proposing that we're putting the cart before the horse is because I'm only asking for the permission to begin that interview process. So, further discussion? Hearing none, we'll open up the floor for public comment. No?
Got up here, I forgot you put that on.
Okay.
Jim Senstock, 31698 San Juan. When we first discussed the fact that the person was going to retire from the fire department, the implication was given that you guys would do some consideration towards possibly eliminating that, and that, as Mr. Battani said, you ought to be presenting and taking a look at the fire budget before you go anywhere about looking to hire or even interview. And if in fact you had to wait the extra month and that individual left, it still would not create a big problem in the fire department, because if she goes off on sick leave, who fills her spot, as you said? So I really think that this board needs to look at what's going on in the fire department, needs to look at downgrading or downsizing the fire department budget wherever they can. And I think you're moving too fast here to create the implication that, oh, we got to hire somebody. The fact of the matter is that it does cost money to advertise for the township, and it's money that ought to be saved until you're sure that you really are going to need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Bardell, 18-year resident. I agree with Mr. Battanti. This is the problem with government and private sector. This is why private sector, you don't have the money, you don't spend the money. You balance your sheets, you balance your books. This is how we shoot ourselves in the foot over and over and over again. It's nonstop. In the private sector, I'm going to say it again, we work a little bit harder, we're a little bit more pissed off, but we get the job done. There's a time and a date, you get the job done. If the fire department can't afford it, you can't afford it. You do more with less. We're shooting ourselves in the foot again. Round and round we go. Mr. Bentoni's making some sense here. I think we need to pick his brain. This is not reasonable. You do more with less nowadays. We got computers, we got technology. We use less people, we can get more done. They don't do this in the private sector. We're in the hole. Please, somebody, take off the sunglasses, please.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment, move back to board comment. Is there any further board comment? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Tominello to post advertise an interview for the vacant clerical position. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is public comments. So we'll open the floor at this time for public comment.
Bill Servil, 37985 Town Hall. First public comment is about the trash hauler. This past summer, parts of Macomb County had severe flooding, especially Warren. Tringali seems to have contracts down there. For 6 weeks, our yard waste was put into the same container, the same truck as our household waste, which is against the law. And I was told that they were helping out the other communities. I don't care about the other communities. What I care about is following the law. I forgot to mention this when I was up here making comments about this contract. Put it in there that they follow federal law. Federal law does not allow yard waste to go into the landfill. So much for that one. Next one, you just passed the DDA today that is capturing for 25 years probably. It's freezing the amount of money that's going to go to emergency for fire and police in that district that you just formed. So the fire department every year from now on, unless you raise the millage again, is going to have the same amount of money that they have this year. It's not going to go up in that district. And yet they're going to have to provide, assuming you grow this district a little bit, they're going to have to provide more service there. It seems like, as another resident said, we're shooting ourselves in the foot here. Third comment, a month ago I was up here, handed out a printed request from this entire board that I wanted an answer to a couple of questions. I made a request that I get a legal opinion on when discharge a lien can exist when there was no lien to start with. I talked to Mr. Huth before the meeting. He didn't indicate that that was going to be addressed. He said that I might get an answer tomorrow, but he was talking about simply there's no mechanism to waive fees. I'm not asking for him to waive fees necessarily. I'm asking for an explanation on how you can issue a discharge a lien and record it with the county if there was never a lien to start with. That doesn't make any sense, so I want a legal opinion. He's the attorney. I want an opinion on it. The second thing I requested is that the community, that the Water and Sewer Department lower the lead. Mr. Huth just informed me that that lead is put in correctly. I don't understand how that can be when the sewer is 13 foot deep and they came up 5 or 6 feet from grade with a riser before they turned horizontally, so the lead is too high to get it underneath the basement floor. That particular lot is below the road, and the elevation of that lot, according to a registered surveyor, is 2 feet above the floodplain. So there's no way that they assumed that they couldn't put a basement there. As far as I'm concerned, that was put in wrong, and at the very least, it's not a good lead, and our lateral fee schedule calls for a different rate per foot if you don't have a lead. So at the very least, that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Bardell, 18-year resident. I know that in the past there's been some talk about school of choice, and we don't want school of choice. We moved out here to this township because we want good schools, we pay the taxes, and we don't want anybody starting trouble at our school. We moved here because we want our kids to go to good schools and everything else. That's all great, except when our school district needs students. Well, why are we busting out? Why doesn't Mr. Brady and the Brady bunch with 8 kids, with all the money, move out here to Harrison Township? Well, it's pretty simple. Our noxious weeds law are 12 inches. Mount Clemens is 8 inches. Warren is 6 inches. That's blight. Mr. Brady and his 8 kids is not going to move out here when you got billboards going in on 94. The Brady bunch isn't going to move out here when you got junkyards on Jefferson with blighted gates and fences. Boats, junk boats outside the junkyard areas. People parking semi-trucks in the old party store. Nobody does nothing. I call the building department, they basically tell me to blank myself. They don't call me back. The only one that talks to me is Adam. He answers the phone. He talks directly to me. Even if I disagree with 99% of what he says, he debates with me, he'll talk to me. Nobody else addresses the issues in this township. We all talk about it. I'm telling you, we blame everything on the trailer park. You don't even see that trailer park. But we got junkyards, we got billboards going on 94. They don't put up with it in Chesterfield Township. And you want Wayne Brady and his 8 kids with their big money to move out here and these dirt roads over here on these half-acre lots and tear the house down and put up a big mansion and go to our public schools so we don't have to have school of choice? Well, they're not going to do that. They got dishwashers on their driveway. They got inside furniture on the outside. What's going on in this township? Our noxious weeds are 12 inches. Mount Clemens is 8. Warren's 6. Wake up! They're not going to move here. We're busting out. The money is not going to come here. We got builders that want to build on seawall tiebacks and 20-foot deep lots. This is what we got. It's not happening. Wayne Brady with his 8 kids is not going to build one in these half-acre lots out here on these dirt roads, tear the house down, build a nice big 3,000 square foot house with his 8 well-groomed kids and go to our Lance Crew school and behave and not cost our township any money, fill up our schools, because we got blight. We got washers and dryers and microwave on the front driveway for 3 years. You got snow blowers on the front driveway for 3 years. And we're supposed to redo our blight ordinances. We're supposed to bring in Steven Strnicki, new sheriff in town. He's from Warren. We can play good cop, bad cop. He's from out of town. None of this stuff is happening. We talk about it. Like I said, the only one that talks to me is Adam. He's the only one that answers his phone. We all pretend. We get guys that say, oh, I can't talk to you, I'm part-time. I'll only email me because I don't want to play he said, she said. And it wasn't Mr. Bentoni, I can tell you that. Is that a good answer?